Okay, so we are ready for section 2 or part 2, removing dried skin. Now, why do we want to remove the dried skin? Well, when we have a gourd, let me pull up a photo that looks like the one in the picture. We need to remove that skin so it looks like this, so we can either paint, stain, or seal these gourds, okay? And we can't do that if that dry, flaky skin is on the outside. So that's why we need to remove it. And how do we remove it, okay? So there's a little summary under 2 as to know how to know when your gourd's dried. I went over that in the last section. So let's go to the tools that you're going to need to remove the skin, right? You're going to need a large bucket or container, trash can. I got a 5-gallon bucket here. Or if you have a large sink in your basement or in your house, you're going to need some weights. Doesn't matter what it is, bricks, stones, paint cans, old water jugs that you fill with water, milk jugs, etc. This is pretty specific, a stainless steel scouring pad. You can buy packs of these for a few dollars in your local pharmacy or grocery store or supermarket, right? If you have a lot of gourds to do, so for example, right now I'm doing 60 at least, you can buy a brush attachment that will go into your drill. This will remove a lot of the skin, but not all of it. So if you have a lot of gourds to do, this will save you some time. But if you just have a few gourds to do, 5 or less, 10 or less, the scouring pad will do everything this brush will and more. So you can get by with just using this. But if you have a lot of gourds, this is going to save you a little bit of time. Next thing in our outline, do not use wire brushes, okay? There's handheld ones and there's drill attachment wire brushes. The bristles on these are way too stiff and strong. If you're trying to take the skin off with these, you're going to scratch the hard shell of the gourd. I know because I've tried it, so don't bother buying these or using them. Real quick, I don't have it in my outline, but I'm remembering it now. There is some really bad advice out there on how to remove the skin, okay? So let me pull up this gourd. You have dried flaky skin, you have dried mold and bacteria, right, and fungus on the shell, on the skin, and some sites recommend that you take sandpaper and you sand this off. That is just a bad idea for numerous reasons. Let's go over a few of them. One, you're going to have spores and dust particulates and everything in the air as you sand with either your hand or a sanding machine or a sanding pad, right? 2, it's going to take you very long to do, or fairly long, and even after a while, you're not going to be able to get all of the skin off, probably. If you do, it's going to take you a long time, and it's going to probably scratch the shell of the gourd. So for all those reasons, it's just an awful idea. It's not the easiest, it's not the best, so do not use sandpaper, okay? So what is the process? It's pretty common sense oriented. If you think about it, it's dried skin. We need to soften it to remove it more easily. So that is why we need these containers or a big sink, right? You fill these with warm to hot water and you soak the gourds. Now, when you have dried gourds, you know, this is clean, so imagine this has dry, scaly skin on it, but the point is it's dry, it's hollow inside. These things are going to bob like a cork. You're not going to be able to just sit them on the water and expect them to be to go under, right? So that is why we were talking about the weight. So here is, for a while I used a rock. Okay, you see in the photo there a stone or a rock hitting down a gourd about this size. There's a water faucet. The photo's on its side there. I stopped using stones and bricks because I feared that at some point, especially when I'm doing so many, I'm going to get careless. My hands are going to be wet. I'm going to drop the stone on a gourd and break it. So then at some point I started using a water jug. If you look at the photo there, I have just an old water jug. You fill it up with water, and you can see I'm using that to pin down a gourd or two in a 5-gallon bucket. Recently, I also started using a kitchen sink. So I have a big kitchen sink, right? Put a bunch of gourds, fill it up with hot water, and I took some cookie sheets, put them on the gourds, and then put some pots with some water on the cookie sheets to kind of weigh everything down. So you can get creative. You just need to submerge these gourds in water, preferably hot to warm. So how long do you let them soak? If it's warm to hot water, 5 to 10 minutes. If it's cold water, about 15 minutes, I would recommend. So, whoops. Let me get that down. So once you soak these, your gourd, the skin on the gourd is going to bubble up, okay? If you look at the screen there, move that gourd up and down. The skin that was dry is going to be soft now. Most of it you're going to be able to remove very quickly. So at the top there you can see the mold and bacteria. That part is going to be really easy to remove, which is another reason I did not use bleach, because the mold and bacteria will help remove that skin, help pull it off of the shell. Now down here, you see the white parts. That is skin that has not bubbled off, that was not pulled off by mold or bacteria. It's still pretty tightly attached to the shell. Now, I'll get into that in a second. So, the brush attachment will remove most or a lot of the skin, especially the parts that had been infected by mold and bacteria. Those parts that had been pulled off of the shell. That's what this is good for. Make sure you do it outside or in a garage or in the sink, because this will splash or whip pieces of skin all over the place. So you don't want to do it up in the air in the kitchen. You're going to get it everywhere, and your spouse or roommates are going to be upset, right? Now, again, only buy this if you have a lot of gourds to do, because this will do everything and more. And what this will do, let me show you. Look at the photo here. It is the top of a gourd, and I use the brush attachment for the top of this gourd, but the white part there is still skin, which I was talking about in the previous photo. It is skin that is still tightly attached to the shell of the gourd, and this will not remove it, okay? Which is why you shouldn't buy this unless you have a lot of gourds to do, because you will eventually need to use this, and this will remove everything. But this is the only thing that, between these two, that will remove that white, tightly attached skin. It's going to remove it very easily. You just need to give a little bit of elbow grease, go over the entire gourd, right? Once you've removed all this skin, just give it a rinse under water, and that's it. You're ready to go for the next step. So I'm going to take this stuff off the table. The next part's going to be sorting the gourds into piles based on size and then cutting entry holes. So let me get some new tools up here, and then we'll start the next section.